All right. Yeah, so my project is titled Open Source Economy, and with an offer loss license. And the idea of this project is to explore decentralized and transparent payment ecosystems for open source technology and culture, and also to find incentives for using those that are aligned with what people actually want, basically. So you can check it. The project is on GitHub, qualibyte/open source economy. And last time I discussed Werner Koch, who's the author of the PGP encryption software that's used for email around the world, and how there was an article recently where he was going broke. And it's an example of open source software that has definite value. And what actually happened was there was an article that was published, and then the Linux Foundation stepped in, and then they offered to sponsor the software. But tonight I wanted to discuss this little example here of this Nyan cat, which is a meme that popped up in 2011. So the story here is that this little image was created by a student named Christopher Torres, and in 2011 he was doing this donation drive for the Red Cross. And he's an artist, and he was on a live stream, and a couple of people asked him. One person asked him to draw a picture of a Pop-Tart, and one person asked him to draw a picture of a cat. So he drew a Pop-Tart cat, and this is the resulting image. And what happened with that was there was a Japanese user, and they took to the image and they associated it with a Japanese pop song called Nyan 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 Nyan, and they posted it on the Japanese video sharing site Nico Nico. And then a couple of other people saw that song, and then they remixed it, and then somebody else remixed that remix. And then the resulting third iteration there was picked up by G4 and collegehumor.com, and it grew into a viral video and got over 100 million views. And it became one of the most watched videos in 2011, basically. And so everyone on the internet basically loves this little meme here. But then the end of the story, if you follow up, I was looking at this just a little bit ago, and if you look at what he's been doing for the last couple of years, what he's actually been doing is he's actually been suing Warner Brothers and the game production company behind the game Scribblenauts, because what they did was they took his image. And so, for example, Scribblenauts is a little game on the Nintendo DS where you can enter any word into the game, and it creates the item in the game, basically. So they have Nyan Cat is one of the things that exists, and they're trying to cover everything that exists. And so Nyan Cat is in the game. And so he hired a meme agent, or a meme attorney, which is apparently an actual thing that exists too. And so that's what he's been doing. And apparently he actually won his lawsuit against Warner Brothers, and he won it in combination with the keyboard cat creator. And so it worked for today. But I don't think that it works in general, and I think that the not-for-loss license actually offers a better solution to this. So there's two components to this open source economy that I've been looking into. The first is a licensing component, the second is a smart contract technology. So this is the full text, actually, of the not-for-loss license. It says the not-for-loss license grants unlimited commercial, nonprofit, and personal use to any organization or individual that agrees to share a small amount of profit, about 1%, with the parts of the open ecosystem that they value, in proportion to their benefit and use. By doing so, they become members of this ecosystem and they maintain their good standing. So there's a lot of leeway there, a lot of subjective components, but that's actually the idea. The idea is not to have this be something that's legally enforced, but have it be something that's actually enforced by social pressure and accountability, which is why I'm exploring transparency, basically, and openness, which is part of the second component here, which is the Ethereum smart contract system. So I have a few smart contracts that I created for this project. It uses the Ethereum platform and Solidity language. The first component is the public account, which allows owners to receive and process funds in a flexible and transparent way where it's tied to their identity. And you can know basically who's receiving the funds, what it's going for, and where it's going to. So you can use it in combination with the not-for-loss license by you take this sub-module, which is a value distribution contract, which is a component within the public account, and so it represents your subjective valuation of other members of the ecosystem. So this is a set of addresses, names and weights, basically. And then thirdly, you have the donation service contract, which distributes the value to multiple recipients at a time for all transactions that come in according to the weighting that you configured with the value distribution contract. And in general, I think you can take those subcomponents and you can think about them as a transaction middleware, which controls the flow of the transaction value with these kinds of standard components and that you can configure with custom parameters. But again, it'll all be transparent so that you can see what's going on. And that's the basic idea. There's a lot more to be explored. There's mathematical modeling that should be done to determine, is 1% really the right amount? Another thing that you could do is it'd be really interesting to see the proper percentage emerge as a social norm, actually. So if you can see everything that's going on in the economy, then you might be able to see, how each member is doing relative to other members, other participants, how much value they're actually contributing back relative to how much benefit that they're getting from other members and how much profit that they're making. So there's a lot more that you can do with it and a lot more you can explore. But that's the basic idea. That's what I have for you. Oh yeah, and so then the question was, if you want to see this running, the state that it's in right now. Here you can see this is the Ethereum mixed IDE, and it lets you edit smart contracts. And you can see right here, this is the example actually of the smart contract. You can find this on my GitHub page under qualitybyte/open source economy. So you have 3 smart contracts here. The first is the value distribution contract, which models arbitrary valuation as key value pairs. The nice thing about this is actually arrays aren't quite implemented in Solidity, so this actually lets you iterate over keys and values because it stores the keys. And you can see right here, here's the key value distribution. Has things like set value, add key, create key. But that's really only something that's used in the other contracts. So the second contract that you see is another subcomponent, the donation service. And allows you to distribute to multiple recipients at once in any way that you choose as a sender, basically. So it's really a service contract. It doesn't really have any state. What it does is it has this one function, donate, which receives another contract as a parameter. The donation waits here. And the type of that contract is the value distribution. And all it does, it just iterates over the keys and values and the weights that you have, and it distributes accordingly to each of those recipients that you want to send to as a donator. And last, you have the public account contract. And this is really the public-facing one. And so what you have here in the constructor is it contains the donation service contract, member ratings, which is something I'm thinking about experimenting with, and the donation weights. And then what you see here is in the send payment function, there's an event trigger with the payment, so you can hook into it on like the web interface. And then the donation service donates the value, 1% of the value, using the donation weight submodule that you have, and then it sends the account owner the remaining portion of the value. And that's exactly how it works. And then you can see here on the side, in the mixed IDE, this is basically the result of running through the steps here. And the tricky thing is that the Ethereum API and the bindings and all of these things have been changing actually, even in the last week. So actually in the last week I've been working a lot with Andy on microwork. So I haven't had time to resolve this issue. But basically once the Ethereum API is stabilized, then more or less this is how this will be working. And that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, so real quick question. You mentioned in the beginning that the not for loss license, you hadn't thought about whether or not it's going to be legal or whatever. Have you talked to anyone from like Creative Commons, or I know James has it from Common Core is right there. Have you had a chance to talk to any like lawyers about that?
No, I haven't talked with anyone about that, so that'd be really interesting actually to get some people who are serious about the legal side to maybe look at it. Because the idea with the not for loss license is that maybe it could be something ideally that could be like a license that you layer with other existing licenses. So a project that uses MIT or GPL license, maybe you could use this in combination. So the other license would govern the process for modifying and redistributing the source code. But then you could use something like this not for loss license to govern in terms of payment and commercial usage and personal usage and things like this. So definitely, if anyone's interested in exploring that, let's look at it.
it up for
One
Tyler.
second.
Tyler was one of the most patient people with Ethereum. Around 2 o'clock one morning, I saw this like 9-page post of his experience for the last like 96 hours of him hacking away at Ethereum. It was pretty detailed and inspiring for the whole class, and yeah, awesome work.
What's Satoshi Brothers?
And
How about Satoshi Brothers?
Oh, yeah, fine.
Right?
Oh,
It's such
a
an
little
awesome
treat.
project. It's,
well, let's
yeah,
go do that again. Yeah.
it's awesome.
Last up,